Joining me right now is Louisiana Congressman, House Minority Whip Steve Scalise. And Congressman, it's always a pleasure to see you.
Morning, Maria. Great to see you.
Thanks so much.
Wish it was under different circumstances, but it's good to be here.
So tell me about it, your reaction to what's taking place. Tell me how this takes place today in the House.
It is disgraceful. I read the president's letter, and he documents so many of the things that are wrong about what Speaker Pelosi is doing. Every other impeachment, there's only been 3 of them, all started with a crime, a specific crime. Andrew Johnson, Bill Clinton, Richard Nixon, all had a crime. There's been no crime. It's been an impeachment in search of a crime, but they thought the Mueller investigation was going to be it. It didn't produce anything, but they kept going because it's a personal vendetta against the president. It has nothing to do with anything he did wrong. They just don't like the fact he got elected in 2016. And more than that, Maria, they're scared to death he will get reelected because he's following through on his promises. But that's not why you impeach a president.
And you say it's a personal vendetta because you've seen these impeachment calls for 2.5 years now.
Right. I mean, the drumbeat from the day he got elected, before he was sworn into office, you had Democrats who are voting today on impeachment say they were going to impeach the president. Not because he did anything wrong. He wasn't even president, just because they didn't like him personally. I've documented, Maria, over 100 Democrats already voted to impeach President Trump for various things prior to the phone call with President Zelensky. So it's not about the phone call. It's never been about quid pro quo or anything, because all of their own witnesses testified the president didn't do anything wrong. They were asked under oath, can you name a law that he's broken? Can you name any bribery? Not a single thing. And so it was never about something he did wrong. It was the fact that they just wanted to go appease their most radical left base, and they're doing it today. But look, over 50 Democrats voted to impeach him because he criticized NFL players for not standing during the Pledge of Allegiance. Voting to impeach the president for that. They voted on record, Maria, over a year ago for that.
Do you expect any Republicans to vote for impeachment?
No.
Not even in the Senate?
No. I think there will be Democrats who vote today against impeachment. So be only the first time in the history of our country where impeachment was a partisan vote, where it went on party lines, and in fact the only vote will be against impeachment today.
I know that there are 2, at least, that we know of, Jeff Van Drew and Colin Peterson, who will vote no. Are there any others, Democrats?
There are others who have expressed strong concerns with what Speaker Pelosi is doing. But look, they're scared to death. They've threatened all of them in their primaries. They've literally, AOC, Pelosi, threatened that if somebody votes against impeachment, they'll run a Democrat against them in their primary. And, look, they're going to have to go back home and explain this. This is going to be, I think, a stain on Nancy Pelosi's legacy as Speaker. Because of the way they've done it in such a partisan way, literally breaking the rules of the House. Rules of the House require a minority day of hearing so that you could present the other side. They didn't even allow that. They voted it down in committee when the committee doesn't have that jurisdiction. It's a House rule. They broke that because they just want to ram this through.
Let's talk about some of the things you are getting done. And we just had Maya McGinnis on from the Committee for a Responsible Budget, who was not happy with this budget. The House approved a $1.4 trillion spending bill yesterday to avert a government shutdown. And then, of course, you've got the USMCA vote tomorrow, setting the stage for President Trump to both get impeached and granted a legislative victory within 2 days on USMCA. What can you say about the spending bill in terms of this really runaway spending that we have?
Yeah, there were 2 different bills yesterday. I voted for the bill that funds our defense and our homeland security. There was another bill dealing with other parts of government that I opposed. But at the end of the day, Maria, this is one of the many things that Congress is not getting done because of impeachment. We would have lower drug prices today because of impeachment. As you know, we've talked about USMCA for months. It should have been signed into law 6 months ago, but then you got impeachment. There are things we can do to get our deficit under control, and it really starts with mandatory spending. In our health care bill last Congress, one of the things we did was block grant Medicaid to the states so that states could actually run the Medicaid program better, have more flexibility. It would save over $800 billion. That's serious savings, plus you get better health care outcomes for low-income people. That's just one reform that we could work on together that Speaker Pelosi refuses to work on because she's just this obsession with impeachment.
She said the other day when USMCA first got to her desk, it was a non-starter. She said that she changed everything, and the Democrats really brought it to a place where it could pass.
No, I mean, look, President Trump negotiated a better trade deal with Mexico and with Canada.
He's been working on this for a year.
He's really been working on this from the beginning of his presidency. People thought he was going to get out of NAFTA. Like, I'm a free trade person. I want to have better trade relationships with our allies. And then you go confront China. He's doing all of that, maybe in an unconventional way, but in an effective way. And this is going to be a big win for workers across this country. So the fact that Speaker Pelosi waited almost a year to get this thing done means over 160,000 jobs that our economy would already have and higher wages for American workers haven't happened yet because they've delayed because of impeachment. But President Trump's the one who went and renegotiated this while they were criticizing and threatening to impeach him. And the great thing about this president, he doesn't let this get to him. Sure, we shouldn't be here. We shouldn't be doing this. But the president's continued to do his job fighting for the hardworking people of this country. And I think that's what they hate the most, is that the president's following through on the things he ran on.
So what would be your priorities for 2020 then in terms of legislative moves? I mean, what do you want to see get done if, in fact, we do see this impeachment fail in the Senate?
Right, and it will, and so then let's move on and focus on real things we can get done. We absolutely can fix many big problems in health care if the Speaker were to work with the President to lower drug prices. Again, there was a bill that came out of committee unanimously, every Republican, every Democrat, bringing generics to the market quicker, reforms at the FDA.
But is she really going to work with the President? I mean Al Green just the other day say, if it doesn't work this time, we'll just keep trying to impeach
him. And he's the one who said you don't need an impeachable offense to impeach a president. I mean, again, this is where they are. They've been infatuated because it's a personal vendetta against the president. They should be focused on the hardworking families that the president is fighting for. We could get a lot of those big things done. We could have real border security. We could get spending under control, Maria. The plans are out there to get spending under control. Speaker Pelosi's never wanted to address this problem. So on all these fronts, if they don't address these next year, there'll be major issues in the presidential campaign and more reasons why President Trump will get reelected and will get the House back.
At the same time, I've got the executive summary in front of me from the IG report, and at the same time, there's really no addressing whatsoever on Nancy Pelosi's team or the Democrats of what took place in 2016. I mean, former FBI lawyer Lisa Page went on another network last night speaking out on more controversial texts with former FBI agent Peter Strzok. Strzok sending Page a text reading this: "I want to believe the path that you threw out for consideration in Andy's office, that there's no way he gets elected, but I'm afraid we can't take the risks. It's like an insurance policy. In the unlikely event you die before you're 40. Page defended the text last night on MSNBC. Watch this.
If President Trump doesn't become president, the national security risk, if there is somebody in his campaign associated with Russia, plummets. You're not so worried about what Russia's doing vis-a-vis a member of his campaign if he's not president, because you're not going to have access to classified information. You're not going to have access to sources and methods in our national security apparatus. So the insurance policy was an analogy. It's like an insurance policy when you're 40. You don't expect to die when you're 40, yet you still have an insurance policy.
So don't just hope that he's not going to be elected and therefore not press forward with the investigation hoping, but rather press forward with the investigation just in case he does get in there.
Exactly.
If they really believe there was somebody on President Trump's campaign or candidate Trump's campaign that were colluding with Russia, why didn't they tell Donald Trump?
Right. And is there no shame, Maria? She ought to be ashamed of herself and what she did to try to undermine an election that millions of people participated in. President Trump was duly elected, and they didn't want him to win. Look, her foreign policy that she's advocating for failed. Russia, by the way, tried to interfere with our election when Barack Obama and Joe Biden were in the White House. Donald Trump's the one who's trying to root it out, even on the Zelensky phone call when he said, will you do us a favor? They keep misquoting that. He said, our country's been through a lot, meaning America, because of the interference in the 2016 election, which he still wants to stop from happening. It happened on Barack Obama and Joe Biden's watch. They're the ones who didn't allow Ukraine to stand up to Russia. They didn't sell the Javelin missiles to bust the tanks. President Trump did to allow them to stand up to Russia. So, again, I don't know whose side she's on, but look, I think people ought to go to jail for the abuses of the FISA process, what they did, trying to undermine election. I mean, if you read the definition of coup, trying to reverse the results of a duly elected president, and she's still trying to defend this stuff?
Well, there was exculpatory evidence that they did not give to the FISA court. We know that there were transcripts of conversations where the people that they were spying on were saying things like, that's treason, I would never do that. You get hanged for something like that. That transcript wasn't given to the FISA court. There was an altering of documents. I mean,
deliberately putting the word "not" in a document, changing the whole meaning of a document to get a judge
well, we're
to sign
going to
off.
look at our procedures. You don't need a procedure to tell somebody you're not allowed to alter a document.
Yeah, you need to root out your bad apples. You don't need to change procedures. If somebody broke the law, you don't change the law. They already broke it. You put that person in jail for breaking the law. That needs to happen, Maria, because, look, FISA court is critical to our national security, but it's controversial. They've exposed why you need more guardrails in place, but it's an important program that they've undermined by going and abusing it. Those people ought to go to jail.
The other thing is what took place before the official start of the FBI counterintelligence investigation, which the FBI claims was in July of 2016. And yet we know that there were informants, people like Stefan Halper and Alexander Downer and Joseph Mifsud, who actually were running into people like Carter Page and Sam Clovis and George Papadopoulos, all members of the campaign.
Yeah, and look at Comey saying, you know, Steele was just a minor part of what they used when he knows better. He knows that that was a major part, and you literally using the opposition research from a political party as the basis for going and trying to take out a president of the United States because you don't agree with his policies, which, by the way, his policies are working. Look at his foreign policy compared to Barack Obama's. Under Obama, you had literally Russia running roughshod over Eastern Europe. You had Iran getting a nuclear weapon. You had China continuing to cheat against American companies. You have North Korea testing ballistic missiles. All this under Obama's watch. Boy, that was great foreign policy that they want to stop, right? Again, whose side are they on?
Yeah, and that's another thing that they didn't tell the FISA court, that Hillary Clinton and the Democrats paid for the Steele dossier.
They paid for it, and then they want to
just invite
hide
foreign interest in. She paid for it.
She encouraged it. Yeah. She literally was trying to stir it up, and she still keeps talking about running for president. Look, I hope she gets into the race, Maria. It shows you, why are they trying to impeach the president? There's no crime. He didn't do anything wrong. It's because they're scared to death he'll get reelected because their field is so weak that you've got more people talking about getting in than there are candidates that are actually leading the pack.
Do you think voters will react in terms of the House? Do you think you'll be able to take back the majority in November?
Oh, look, there are a lot of Democrats that are going to vote today to impeach a president not based on something he did wrong, but based on hatred and fear of their radical left base, and they're going to pay a deep price for it. They can't go back home to a lot of these districts and explain the vote they're going to cast today, and so a lot of them might be one of the last votes they cast.
All right, we will leave it there. Hey, go Tigers.
Go Tigers. How about that, huh? Burrow, Heisman, national title, Drew Brees. What a great year for Louisiana sports.
Exactly. Good for you. Good to see you, Congressman. Thank you so much. Congressman Steve Scalise joining us.